and I'm sure some of you are noticing something a little different. I actually have someone like live in person next to me as opposed to on the camera. So this is cool.
It is.
So I have Cathy Sabater. Is
Yes.
that? I mean, I feel like because you're Puerto Rican, it should
Yes.
be a little. There should be like some
Cathy
Latina.
Sabater.
Sabater.
Yes.
Okay. See,
Yes.
I knew there had to be some Latin flair into it. So Cathy and I are actually colleagues. We're coworkers. Work in the same office. So I thought, you know what? Come on the couch with me and sit right next to me, and let's just do this together. Because she literally, I called her and she was in the other office, and she's like, I'm just like at the office. I was like, come sit next to me. So everyone, welcome to Women That Tread. Cathy, welcome.
Oh, I'm so happy to be on the show. Happy holidays, everyone, as you can tell.
I know. She's super festive. How many of these do you
I only have 5 of these left, and I think I have 5 Christmas pajamas.
Oh, okay. Yes. Nice. Yes. I think the last 3 times that I've seen you, you've had a different holiday dress.
That's right.
I need to step up my holiday game. All right, Cathy. So this week we wanted to talk about trends in the market for sellers and buyers. I know usually like it's a lot of the conversations I have are more in depth about the guest. And I don't know, this week we wanted to do something obviously different. And the fact that she's sitting next to me, I feel like at least it'll be a little bit more conversational. And so Cathy, I do want to acknowledge the fact that Cathy is a veteran. You, I think, are the second woman that I've had on my show that's a veteran. So I'm like super honored.
It was a pleasure to serve.
Yes, so thank you. What branch?
I was in the Navy for 8 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And did finance.
Badass woman over here.
That's right. Did the finance and had a storeroom.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting perspective in life.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's really great when we have people come into the industry that have so many different experiences and different perspectives. I think it helps.
Right.
And so speaking of which, so when we talk about, we say trends, what does that mean? Because I feel like right now there's so much being said with what's going on, right? And I am actually in the process of buying a property, and I am not listening to what all these people are saying. I'm just kind of like, I know this is... everyone says it's not the right time and interest rates are up and so forth. But I'm like, if I can do it, why wouldn't I do it?
Exactly. And that's the key. When you're dealing with trends and you're dealing with your ability to purchase, you purchase when you're ready to purchase. It doesn't matter what the market is, right? As you can tell, our hair is transitioning. So that's also a trend as well, okay? Because you see our picture there, we're blonde and now we're dark. Well, we have a different story for that, and we'll talk about that later. So if you really wanted to talk about trends, I purchased my home, and I did a COVID made me do a video, okay? So March 2022, when everything broke down and they shut everything down, I went and lived with a person. And for 3 months, I'm living there going, hey, why am I paying this mortgage? I'm living here. Is this going to be COVID? Because, we figured it's going to last maybe 1-2 years, right? So I ended up putting my condo on the market. I did not want to buy a house because I was ready to retire and do this other stuff. So the trend back then, which is 2020, right, was, hey, what the heck's going on with the market? I don't know. But as we all know, the trend was equity was going this way. It's a good thing I did purchase, because if I didn't, I'd be priced out now, right? So the trend is 2020, we did not know what's going to happen. We just knew that incrementally things were happening, right? People were purchasing. I had to buy my house over asking. And my appraisal didn't come in. That was the trend 2 years ago.
Oh, snap.
You see what I mean? It didn't come in, so I had to come in with the extra money, right?
Okay.
So that trend in 2022, now in 2022, what's the trend now? Well, the trend now is some buyers were saying, hey, I'm going to wait for the prices to go down. So we do see some home prices going down, because now that you're actively looking, it's interesting what you hear, right? So there's a lot of chatter that's out there. But the key at hand is you're going to hear what you want to hear.
So true. Right? You're going to hear what you want to hear.
You're going to hear. So if you're a buyer and says, hey, I'm not going to buy, interest rates are too high, you're going to tune into things that say that. If you're in the mood that you're in now, you're only going to tune in. And that even includes listening to me, right? You're only going to hear what you want to hear. It's like our friends. Hey, I got this problem. Give me your advice. I go, what do you want to hear?
But you know what? It's true. That's why misery loves company, right? Because if you're miserable, you want that company of yours to be miserable too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then if you also looking at trends, okay, so interest rates are higher than they've ever been. We have been so spoiled with interest rates for over 10 years. Feds did what they had to do, right, to maintain that. but it was unrealistic for it to maintain itself.
Mhm.
Just like equity growth, I don't know about you, if you didn't buy 2 years ago, most of us have 20% of equity growth right now. So now when the trend is, they say that the market's going to decrease like 5%. 5% where? I live in San Diego.
I know.
So
I was going to say, we have to kind of have a disclaimer here that we live in San Diego
That's
County,
right.
but we kind of are in our own little world.
Exactly. Exactly. So the interesting thing is, if you would have seen last year, the median home price in San Diego was almost $1 million. So if you want to talk about trends now, it's almost 900. So there's a decrease there from 2020 to 2022. So when you're talking about trends, these are the things that we look at, right? So again, if you're a buyer going, hey, I'm not going to buy, keep trending the market, okay? Because I ask, if you're, it's certain things that if things are going down, it's worth purchasing. But if it's going to continue to go down, why are you purchasing it? We want equity, right? So it's an interesting thing. The other thing in regards to generations, right? Because we have different types of generations here. Okay. So my trend, right? I'm going to call myself an echo boomer. It doesn't exist.
What?
Okay. Because my level of energy, you would never know how I am. So that'll be a trivia question later. How old is Cathy? I'm due to retire like 5 years. Okay. So am I that young or that old? That's another story, right? Right?
No, it's true.
So my way of looking at things are different because I'm ready to retire. I wanted to buy investment property this year. I was unable to because the return on investment, because the interest rates are too high. I did purchase a property in Tennessee last year, and my return on investment was great because then, can you believe this? Check this out. Talk about trends. Last year, 2021, investment property, I got 3.5%.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Raquel, you're not going to get that, but you're going to get the home you want. Okay? You're going to get the home you want, and because you're purchasing in San Diego, you're also going to get the rental income to cover the mortgage. And like, I'm talking about generations now, if you talk about trends, if I'm looking for residual income, the one thing I can say about the younger generation, more like the millennials, is they kind of get it, right? They understand that home ownership is important. And believe it or not, we had a lot of millennials purchase in 2021, 2020, right? Because they were like, hey, rates are low and rents are going up. So if I can purchase this home, let me think about it. I got a roommate anyway, right? They're younger than me. I don't want a roommate. I got a roommate anyway. I can just rent out a room.
Yeah.
I can change my garage. So that trend, right? Because you got different types of trends.
Yeah, that was actually, I will say this. I was with some classmates of mine from high school, and they live in a suburb area here in San Diego County. They were talking about how on their street, the trend during COVID was all their kids who were in their like early 20s came and moved back in with them. And they went ahead and remodeled like their garages and turned their garages into like little mini apartments for their kids. And they said that like on that street, there were at least 5 homes like that.
Right. And so another trend is generational, right? Living. Right. So you have the older, am I old? Right. Anyway, you have the older generation that they have home ownership. And believe it or not, we have like the millennials who did purchase. They understand either I do that ADU, which is the accessory dwelling unit, right? That's changing the garage into a living space, right? And then getting the money. And now some of these millennials are living mortgage free because they're using the income from there to pay their mortgage. Now we have to help them with how you're going to invest the money that you're supposed to be using so that you can purchase another investment property and then either have that total investment and then go get a property that you can have just for you and family. So a lot of different trends we can touch on in regards to.
I feel like there's still that narrative of why would I buy interest rates are high, but yet you're paying this large rent. Like I still don't understand how a lot of people are still able to kind of justify renting and paying all this money when it's not, you're not paying yourself, you're paying somebody else. So that's like, how can we change that narrative? Like, do we need to educate better? Do we need, I don't know what it is, but I feel like we could still do a lot more there.
So you mentioned education. The biggest thing I would say that is trending is that a lot of younger generation, they don't understand that you don't have to put 20% down.
I know we just, so I had Kristen Meserly on this show several weeks ago, and she had done the Next Gen homeownership report, and she basically surveyed, I think I want to say it was almost 5,000 people, and it was millennial, Gen Z, I think 18 like 44 age group, and 70% of those people still believe that you had to put 20% down. So
Mhm.
that goes to show
There you go.
we are not educating.
Or they're hearing what they want to hear.
Here.
Because if you look, there's a worksheet that we can provide you, right? So it's all about this. It's really like a timetable. If you pay $2,000 a month in rent, times 12 is what? $24,000 a year.
Right.
So you're paying $24,000 a year. Let's say just because you're a millennial, maybe 10 years.
Okay.
So how much is that? 24 times
a lot.
24 times 10 is $240,000 that you, like you just said, you're not paying yourself. You're helping somebody else pay their mortgage, right? So the biggest thing is education, and the other one is fear, right?
Yeah.
Am I going to make this commitment to stay here if I don't like it? If there's a repair that needs to be made, I don't have a landlord. You have a home warranty. We can talk about that. There's a plus and minuses on that too, right? But at the end, it all boils down to, if you don't have to put 20% down, if you have the ability, right, to want to make the commitment, and really most importantly, stop paying $240,000. And that's just using $2,000 a month in rent for 10 years, right? And make the commitment, right? And then we just plan it for you, right?
Right.
So it's like you're going to purchase property amidst of whatever's going on, because at the end of the day, usually they say real estate is one of the best investments you can get.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I will be completely honest, because I'm always honest and transparent. I'm scared to do it. And the reason why, and I'll be honest in the sense that, like, I'm really comfortable right now. I'm living with my mom. I don't pay a mortgage. So I have the money to, like, spend on things that maybe before I wouldn't be able to, because I would have a budget, or I wouldn't be able to afford it because I don't want to put a ton of purchases on my credit card. So I'm also getting used to living with my mom and being able to just do what I want because I have that money free, right? And so if I buy a property, guess what? I'm gonna have to pay a mortgage. My budget tightens. And so that's the reality of, like, I think a lot of people too are like, oh no, that means I'm gonna have to be like sacrifice a lot of things that, I maybe travel and, clothing or whatever. But I will have to say, I bought a condo 5 years ago in Virginia, and I sold it before I moved back to San Diego. And I made a ton of money in 5 years. Like, I wouldn't have been able to make that amount of money anywhere else. Like, it was in real estate. So I think it's like remembering, but just think about how much you are going to make with having real estate. Like, I think it's that hindsight, right, of being able to kind of look at the bigger picture, because I think a lot of us tend to look in the moment and not look at the bigger picture.
Right. So let's talk about trends, because you talked about not being able to go out and do all this other stuff. Before COVID, table service, that was a trend. And then COVID came and it kind of shut that down.
Yeah.
And I recall going out dancing, and I was sitting at a table.
He loves to salsa.
I'm a salsera for sure. So I'm at a salsa, and as a matter of fact, I went downtown and it was a salsa club. So I like to get there early because I like to watch people, and then they do the dance lesson, and I always pretend I can't dance, so I'll try to do the dance lesson, because I can't dance to 1, 2, 3. I can dance to the music, but then they tell you do this turn, do this turn, do this. I'm like, whatever. Okay. So anyway, here I am sitting by myself. I'm hanging out, and then one of the people at the bar says, "Hey, by the way, you got to leave because this is going to be table service." I said, "I'm not going anywhere. I paid $25, and I'm staying here, right?" And he's looking at me like, "You got to be kidding me." So anyway, I lucked out, right? And they ended up doing a table service elsewhere. Okay. So now here goes trends, right? Because why? Because social media has good things and bad things, right? At the end of the day, everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses. Before, it was word of mouth or in your neighborhood. Now it's socially, so it's worldwide. I'm doing this, I got to do this, right? Like you mentioned. Well, I went to Japan, well, I'm going to go to Korea, right? So people are trying to keep up with social media. So I remember that being one of the highest costs. When I run credit, I go, "Hey, I see this credit. You must love this club because you pay $400, $500, $600. But Cathy, you don't understand. There's 5 of us, right? They give me cash. And at the end, sometimes it's cheaper than buying a $20 drink at the time. But at the end, I'm sitting by myself. I don't got table service. And yet they got table service. So you talk about trending. So now here we are in 2022 going into 2023. Is that still viable? I don't know. I don't go out. I didn't go back to that club, right? I am going to go back out, but I always mix up my dates. When I get there, the party's over, right? But at the end, when you talk about trending, right? So here I am. I'm used to going out. I'm used to spending $400, $500 when I do go out. So if you would multiply that, even if you just did that twice a month, that's $1,000.
Yeah.
Right? So 1,000 times 12. Let's do that again. 12 times That's $12,000, right?
She's a mathematician, not me.
So this is the interesting thing. You just gave somebody 12. Here you go. But I have beautiful memories. And then you got everything online and in the cloud. I wish we'd have that when I was young and dancing and doing some things. Maybe, I don't know, plead the fifth on some of those things. Right? But here it is. I gave you $12,000, right? Now, let's just be conservative. Let's say I just saved half of that. So in a year, I can have $6,000. Hey, Cathy, what can I do with $6,000? Well, we got the California Dream, we got first-time home buyer program. It might take you another year or two, but keep doing what you're doing. So now check this out, because you are buying regardless of what everybody's saying. Now, even if equity grows down 5%, what does that mean? That means I was getting 15% equity, and now I'm getting 5% less. Oh, so I'm still getting 10% equity. So even if you buy something for $500,000, easy math, right? 10%, 500,000, that's $50,000. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You could potentially have, in virtual money, $50,000. That's why we can't say $50,000. Well, some of us could, but for the most of us, we can't. So in a year, I could potentially, depending on what zip code I buy in, a year from today, that same property could potentially cost $550,000, even if we're in a downward market. In an upward market, it might have been 20%. So it might cost me $600,000. We don't know. But even at a 5% equity decrease, I'm still making money in San Diego as of now, right? Now, the trends are different for each zip code, but at the end of the day, you got to listen to what you want to hear. It's a 5% decrease from what? What is the average median price in San Diego, right? It's over $900,000.
Yeah.
So even if I go down and we're in double digits, right? What's a double digits mean? Over 10%, right? So if I'm over 10% and now I'm doing, it may go down to 5%. You're out there in the market. Are you seeing any real price reductions right now?
I'm seeing some price reductions. Yeah.
Okay. So the price reductions are there, but at the end, it all boils down to how much is the price reduction for? And how does it affect you as a buyer? Because think about it. It has to go down at least $100,000 for it to really affect your mortgage payment, right? $100,000, because then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna pay $100 less, maybe $150 less.
Gotcha.
Right? So you can negotiate what you can negotiate now in 2022, where 2021 and 2020 there was no negotiating for the buyers. Mm-hmm. So we're hearing all this chatter that it's a buyer's market. It's going to be a buyer's market. The market's going to crash. When we say crash is all relative, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you have all these people like recession, crash, like, and I feel it is all very relative when it comes down to it.
So don't get me wrong. There are some cities that, even though prices are going down, their median home price is a lot lower. So people are maybe moving from one place to another place, but you also have to do your research to make sure what's their property taxes, state taxes, and can you live there, right? Because at the end of the day, we live in San Diego, so they call it sunshine dollars.
We got the California tax.
Right? They call it sunshine dollars because most of the time it's sunny here. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's a different lifestyle, right? I'm from New York, from the Bronx.
Can't you tell because of her accent?
Mm-hmm. And it's just a different lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy visiting New York. I enjoy Rockefeller Center. There's certain things like, the Puerto Rican Festival, and there's certain things I will go back and visit. But my lifestyle here is 10 times better in regards to one. It took me 5 years to get used to San Diego. So, because I talk too fast, no, you listen too slow. Right? So at the end, it all boils down to where you want to live, right? And then when you're talking about crash and recession, many reports have stated one of the biggest difference between the crash we had in 2008 is that people didn't have skin in the game. Okay.
Well, and I will tell you this, because this, once again, it's like, it's all relative in the sense of in 2008, I didn't know there was a crash happening, you guys. Like, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 little ones. My ex had a really stable job. We were in Loudoun County, which we kind of were in a bubble. I had no idea. It wasn't until years later that I got into this industry. Everyone kept referring to the crash of 2008. I'm like, what was that? And everyone's like, because I was not affected by it, and I was in my own little world, and I wasn't paying attention. So believe it or not, it's like you can still kind of be protected a lot of times from these, the recession, the crash, and so for me, super oblivious and naive.
So, and some of the people who are purchasing now, some people may consider that's what they're doing, but it's not. That's not the case. It all boils down to you two. To right now, the great thing about the new trend in 2022 and 2023 is that first-time home buyers have more of an opportunity to now negotiate. Because before we're doing offers 20% down, cash offers. We were competing more with that. So now our first-time home buyers actually have the opportunity to put in an offer with less than 3.5, 5% down, and their offer be looked at. Where before it was at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
You can't compete with 20% down, right? So when you talk about trends, there goes another trend. So for the buyers, then you can consider that it is kind of shifting for a buyer's market in regards to you don't have to compete with as many cash offers. A lot of people not putting 20% down.
Yeah, and the house and the properties are sitting there. Like, for instance, I'm looking at a couple. Yes, one just got an offer, but one is still sitting there, and it was from a week ago, which a week is nothing. Like, when, I mean, things, I sold my condo in a weekend. Like just like that. Right. So a week, you're like, oh my gosh, it's sitting on for a week. But yeah, like nobody's like, going nuts right now. And so that's why I'm trying to take advantage too, because I don't want to sit there and feel rushed either. Like, I'm trying to take my time in buying something. And I think before, people kind of had to just, jump the gun and just be like, we got to do it, yes or no. At least now I feel like I have a little bit more leeway to really think about it, to really get something that I want. See, once again, I'm looking at the positives.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Not the negatives.
Exactly. So now the difference now with homeowners who are selling. So what's the difference for their trend? Well, their trend is like, what do you mean I can't get $50,000 over asking?
Yeah.
I want it. I need it.
What do you mean I don't have like 10 offers?
Thank you. Only 10 offers. I'm used to 25, right? So there goes a different trend for the sellers going, you know what? I don't care what you tell me, Mr. Realtor. I'm keeping the price here. So if that seller has time to wait, it can sit on the market. Yeah. If they don't have time because they got to relocate or whatever the case may be, then they have to say, what do I have to do to negotiate, or do I rent it, right?
Yeah.
So then the seller's new trend is, right, I'm used to having my interest rate at a certain amount. Like, you sold your house, right? So now you got to go to another space and go, wow, my mortgage is going to be this much, right? So how am I going to manage that? And it's all about not the interest rate. It's all about what mortgage rate you're going to be comfortable with.
Yeah, I was going to say what you
can in your next place.
Yeah.
That is the key, because we all know that hopefully, we can't promise you anything, but if the recession comes, which we want and don't want, because then that means people may be losing their jobs, right? But then usually what follows is interest rates tend to go down. So most of us, right, because NAF has a plan, 5-year plan, that when we go through it, right, because it took less than a year for us to get rates as high as they are now, right? So it's going to take time. So it could take another year and a half. But at the end of the day, we still have a plan to say, hey, we know your rate's going to be this high, but understand 6 months, a year from today, we have another plan for you to just reduce your payment if it makes sense, right? Because we all know to refinance costs money. But if you have equity growth, right? If you put 20% down and you're still having your equity growth, then it's easier for us to refinance you, right? If you have a down payment assistance program, we can talk about that later. There's certain things you can and cannot do because you got to keep the house for so long before you can refinance, because they gave you all that money. Okay. So at the end, it all boils down to that's why we have the 5-year plan, right? So depending on what your contract is when you sign your loan documents, then we're going to make sure that a year, 2 years, 3 years from today, hey, we could potentially save you X amount of money per month. I say if you don't save $300 a month, you wait. Because then that cost, right, the return on investment, otherwise you're giving the bank your money, it increases your mortgage, right? No money out of your pocket,
right?
But you're increasing your mortgage amount. But if you're going to save the amount of money, don't get me wrong, $200 is a lot for some families.
Yeah.
So it all just depends, right, on what you decide to do. So that's a different trend now than we had before, because people who buy cash, guess what they did? They pay cash, and guess what they did? They refi cashed out, right? Because they took that money and started buying somewhere else. Why? Because money was cheap.
Yeah.
Right? So I could buy another house and be okay with it, depending on that mortgage payment that they wanted. Right?
Wow. I mean, well, so you made a point, because you were talking about how NAF has, that 5-year program. So essentially, most mortgage companies are trying to cater to the home buyer in a sense of like, we want to help you. We want to try to be able to have this American dream come true for you. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to come up with products and programs to help. So that's really important too, is to make sure that you're out there educating yourself on these different types of products and loans, because you never know. Because once again, everyone thinks 20% down and it has to be, you know, like this perfect loan, but no, there are so many different types of loans out there. And so it's asking a loan officer, asking, you know, just maybe people that have bought homes, like referrals are always great too. So if you know,
But
someone.
it all boils down to, you're in this market, right? So we're talking about trends again, right? And I can pick a lot of different topics for trends. It all depends on what you need. But as you can hear us saying, what happened in 2020, people were paying over. People were putting more than 20% down. That is why a lot of the economists say it's not going to crash, because if I put 20% down, you put 20% down. Are you going to walk away from that property, or are you going to do everything you can to keep it? Unlike the other market where it was 0%, 0% financing. So if you walked away, you didn't really lose money, right? But even in today's market, if we were to have a recession, people were to lose their job, people still have equity in their home that if they did, we don't want it to happen, but if they did foreclose, at least they're getting some money back. I've been advising some of my people that, hey, if you can't pay your mortgage, you can't be here, you could potentially sell, move out of state, you know what I mean? I'll trend the market, we'll plan it, and then hopefully you can come back, because the rent that you have right now compared to your mortgage, you might as well buy another property, right? Versus selling and renting. That is my recommendation. So that's a different trend, right? Because before, people who didn't were unable. So the difference is now is if you don't have a job, more than likely you can't get any kind of financing, right? So, but the banks don't want the money back. So then it's up to you. Don't mess up your credit. Sell your home. Go somewhere if you can, because what was the biggest trend with COVID? Working remotely. How many of you got to drive to work now compared to before?
I drive to work because I like coming to the office. Otherwise, I could work from home, but I like to be around people.
But that's the biggest trend in that and this is, it's honestly true, I think, in most people's opinion, is that because I can work anywhere, I can live anywhere, right? So some people used to live, let's say you lived in, like I live in El Cajon now, I used to live in Hillcrest. But if my job is out in Carlsbad, I'm like, oh, do I got to buy in Carlsbad, right? Now, if you have family with kids, that's a different perspective. But at the end of the day, if I'm remote and I can go to Kentucky, buy a house, make the same money I'm making here in California, Sunshine Dallas, and purchase a home, maybe one day I can sell my house in Kentucky and move back to San Diego. So to me, that was another trend that happened with COVID, because people are working remotely, right? And people say, well, we don't want the New Yorkers, we want the Bay Area, right? Because Texas, Arizona, right? I'm making all this money, and I can go to Austin, make the same kind of money, and buy a house, what, $300,000, $400,000? Yeah. People are paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month in rent in the Bay Area. San Diego, believe it or not, the same thing. Los Angeles, same thing. Yeah. So when they say the market is crashing, I'm like, okay, so you're renting out your condo, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, for almost $3,000 a month, right? Because we're going to buy a house here. And now you want to buy another house, right? Because this is what the millennials get. I'm going to buy this house, and if I can stay here, I'm staying. But if I can't stay here, I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm going to rent it out. I don't like the neighborhood. Or I'm here in San Diego, but now my job is in Carlsbad. Before, I didn't have to go to work, but now I got to drive. I don't want to drive from here. So I can rent out this property, right? Because we did a refi cash out. We did, yeah, because we planned it. So we did refi cash out because we had all this equity. So we refi cashed out, knowing we're going to purchase somewhere else, right? That family was going to purchase out of state. But it just so happens that the company said, hey, by the way, I want my people coming to work. Now you got to drive. Well, as we all know, the driving with the 15, that can be a headache. So someone said, hey, Kat, I'm going to drive all the way to Temecula. I said, what I'll have you do is do it every day for a week and see if your body and your car can manage it. Because it's the money for gas that people forget, right?
And gas prices in Cali.
So that's a different trend, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's see, that's the thing. There's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot of info out there. Mm-hmm. So, and we're already at the 30-minute mark. So, Cathy, if people wanted to reach out to you and ask any questions or anything, where can people reach you?
Well, texting, I hear, is the best thing. So my cell phone number is 619-846-2675. I would say Cathy Sabater, you will spell it incorrectly. So, but at the end of the day, you got the digit 619-846-2675, and then I'll call and text you back accordingly. Happy holidays.
Yay! Well, thank you, Cathy. That was a lot of information. My head spun a little bit, but that's okay.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I
Yes.
truly appreciate it.
And we'll see you all next week on Women That Shred.